I stood in the ashes of my old life, staring at the smoldering remains of my certificates. The man I trusted had set flame to every piece of paper that proved my worth. Yet somehow, deep inside, I promised myself this would not be my end. Behind closed doors, the man I called my husband used silence like a weapon. He stripped me of confidence long before he put the match to my certificates. But that night, when I walked out with nothing but a small bag and a broken heart, I felt the faint stirrings of strength. I had no degree, no job, no home, just memories burning in the wind. The bus station became a refuge as I watched the world move on. But deep down, I refused to accept defeat. A women's shelter became my first step. The staff treated me like a human being when I felt like a ghost. Slowly, piece by piece, I started to envision a life built from the ruins. With help from new friends, I found a part-time job. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The sting of rejection was replaced by the warmth of belonging, and I promised myself this was just the beginning. Each night, I remembered the sound of burning paper and felt anger rise within. But that anger became fuel, not to destroy, but to build. With trembling hands, I signed up for online courses. No degree. No problem. I would educate myself piece by piece. The man who thought he ruined me didn't know my resilience. That first online certificate felt like a victory. Not because of the paper itself, but because I had refused to give up. The ember of hope started to glow brighter. Through friends I met online, I was introduced to a tiny startup looking for help. No degree required, just grit, determination, and a sharp mind. I jumped in, and for the first time in years, felt valued. What started as an entry-level role became a passionate endeavor. Long nights, hard lessons, and countless moments of doubt shaped me into a force to be reckoned with. A chance encounter with my ex shook me to the core. The sting of betrayal bubbled up, but this time, I refused to let it define me. What he destroyed could never match the strength I had built. With growing confidence came new opportunities. Speaking up in meetings, making bold decisions, every step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Through collaboration and trust, I discovered a strength I hadn't known before. Together with colleagues, I started building ideas that would one day redefine an industry. A spark ignited within. Why wait for permission? Why not build something of my own? The thought felt radical, terrifying, and absolutely liberating. With a small notebook and a heart full of ambition, I began drafting ideas for a company that reflected my values, resilience, integrity, and belonging. Days bled into nights as I shaped a vision, built a business model, and lined up connections. The girl with ashes in her hands was now crafting a blueprint for an empire. With savings and sheer will, I took the leap. The first dollar invested felt like planting a seed for a future that refused to be defined by the past. Nervously, I shook hands with a potential client and promised them the best. They believed in me, and suddenly, I began to believe in myself. As opportunities came, I learned that saying no could be just as powerful as saying yes. Boundaries weren't limitations, they were the foundation for integrity. With a trembling voice and hopeful heart, I announced the launch. What started as a quiet whisper became a rallying cry. I was no longer a victim of circumstance. I was a creator of futures. Obstacles came. Not every win was a victory. But this time, I had a backbone of steel and a heart that refused to break. A seasoned entrepreneur took notice and offered guidance. In those moments, I learned that strength shines brighter when shared. People came to work with me because they felt the same belonging I had long sought. Together, we weren't just building a company, we were nurturing a movement. The day we landed a big contract felt like a holy moment. The whispers of doubt silenced as applause replaced silence. The ashes of the past had birthed a rising flame. My ex surfaced, seeking a place in the new world I had built. But I smiled, shook my head, and walked away. The chapter was closed. The pen was now in my hands. The office felt like a second home. Leading a team taught me lessons about belonging and empowerment that no degree ever could. I started mentoring women who felt broken and lost, reminding them that no circumstance can extinguish their flame. We rise not despite pain, but because of it. The company grew beyond anything I had imagined. Not just in profits, but in the countless lives it touched. At the end of a long day, I stood by a window and felt a quiet sense of belonging. The ashes of the past no longer felt like ruins. They felt like rich soil for a hopeful future. A gala was held for the company, and as I spoke to the room, I felt the sting of old scars. Yet every word was a testament to resilience. A former friend appeared, reminding me of the person I used to be. The conversation felt like a bridge between the girl I was and the woman I had become. Through therapy, reflection, and self-compassion, I learned that the wounds of betrayal could be reshaped into strength. My focus shifted to creating opportunities for others. What was born from heartbreak became a beacon for those seeking belonging and belonging. A pivotal moment arrived when we announced expansion across borders. The ashes of my old life felt like tiny sparks in a global flame. In moments of quiet, I looked back and felt deep gratitude for the pain that molded me and the people who walked beside me. With every door opened, another chapter began, one where belonging was no longer about external recognition, but internal knowing. I chose to release old pain fully. Not because it was forgotten, but because it no longer held the pen that wrote my future. Standing tall, I embraced the woman shaped by flame, molded by trials, and defined by her courage to rise. Through mentoring, scholarships, and empowerment programs, I gave back to a world that tried to take so much from me, and instead inspired a legacy. As the sun rose one morning, I smiled. The ashes had long ago given way to a garden. The girl with no degree, no documents, no voice, had become a beacon of belonging, strength, and belonging.